I wouldn't necessarily go on record and say that the Castlevania series is necessarily dead. It's quite possible that it's on a hiatus, even though the very last game that we saw within the series came out back in 2014, and that was Lords of the Shadow 2. And I don't think that game was quite as popular as the first one or even like older entries within this series. And the thing that a lot of people have to realize is that Castlevania was basically at its peak during the 80s and during the 90s, and even during like the early 2000s with Circle of the Moon, Harmony of Dissonance, and Aria of Sorrow. But it seemed like after the early 2000s, the Castlevania series began to go downhill. And even though the first Lords of the Shadow game was something that impressed a lot of people because it looked and felt different from anything people saw prior to that in 2010, it felt very different, and there were a lot of video games that were coming out at the time, especially as related to like first-person shooters and RPGs and all that stuff, that would have overshadowed the Castlevania series. For the most part, like Castlevania is mainly sci-fi, and people prefer like more reality-based, fictional video games opposed to something that's just purely fantasy. So I think those things had like something to do with Castlevania not being quite as popular, but it's not like Castlevania has faded off into irrelevancy during the 20-teens decade, because back in 2017, Castlevania got its own Netflix series, and I believe there's supposed to be another Castlevania Netflix series coming out sometime in the future. So Castlevania is not completely irrelevant. I just feel like the video game series is currently on a hiatus, and it's not like Konami has went on record and say that the series is dead or anything like that. It's just that if the series is currently on a hiatus, or if and whenever Konami decides to revive the Castlevania video game series, I'm pretty sure it will turn a lot of heads within the gaming world, attract a lot of attention, and if it's released, it will reach at least 1 million in sales. I do think that there's some value in the Castlevania series, but I just feel that right now, it's better off in terms of just being like in a hiatus state right now, or Konami not doing anything unless there's a strong demand for it. And I do find it hard to believe that Castlevania has been around since 1986, but there are some people who feel that like the series probably should have ended years ago, considering the fact that people began to lose interest in it around like around the 2000s or what have you. I feel like we should have gotten like a Castlevania motion picture or movie or something on cinema like a very long time ago, but it just seemed like we're well past that. And as big and as popular as the series is, like the best thing that I got was like a Netflix series, it's cool, but I do feel like the series deserved more, and it's unfortunate that it doesn't seem like it's going to get more than what it possibly deserves. But as far as another Castlevania game is concerned, we have no idea whether that's going to happen or not. But I guess if the demand for another Castlevania game is strong online among various hardcore gamers, it's quite possible that we could get one sometime in the near future. But I'm not going to make any promises, and we'll just have to wait and see what happens in the future.